Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to TorchTales, Stories Behind the Hood. I'm your host, Frank Vargas, aka Traveling Frankie. You know how this works. I sit here, someone sits, well, in this case, across from me, across the digital world. And today I'm honored to have someone that is a rock star in the industry. I mean, the stuff he makes is larger than life. He's been doing this for a long time. And when you see, because I'll post some of those pictures as once I edit the whole episode or the conversation, how I call them, you're going to see the kind of stuff this guy does. Kevin Stone out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Kevin, thank you so much for saying yes again.
Oh, thanks for having me, Frank. It's good to be here.
Cool, awesome. So I know I've personally met you at FabTech. It just happened the other day in Orlando. But before that, I kind of been stalking your Instagram and some of the stuff you make. You're like, wow, I can only dream. Not even with a piece of paper can I do the stuff you do.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been I've been doing it a long time now. So
It you can tell definitely it comes across that way on even if you look at it from on a picture. Now, Kevin, usually I always want to know where people come from. Why are they here? How come they chose this industry? And are they crazy enough to stay in it? Which it seems like you have made that decision. So
yeah,
let's go from the beginning. Where are you from?
sure. Well, I'm from Vancouver Island in British Columbia, Canada. So I grew up on the island and started my trade in welding after high school when I was 19, and just been in the trade ever since. So I left fabrication and welding when I was about 30, I guess, and started my art full time. So.
Now, you said after high school. Were you already kind of doing welding school or any kind of welding classes in high school?
No, I hadn't done any welding. I had a neighbor that had a welding shop when I was growing up, and I was always interested in going over there and spying on the stuff he was working on. But I grew up more of a car guy. I was kind of I was into hot rods and muscle cars and old cars, and I grew up in an IGA, so we had a gas station and a grocery store, a Texaco gas station with an IGA combined with that. So we had a Texaco IGA gas station that I grew up in, and up the street from us, there was a car builder, and he used to build some really badass hot rods when I was a little kid in the early '70s. And blown muscle cars coming in, and all these custom hot rods, T-buckets, and stuff coming into the gas station to get gas, and I just had a love for cars. I was a model builder and an artist from an early age. I used to draw all kinds of like Conan and cars and all kinds of stuff at an early age, and that slowly developed after I learned how to weld and fabricate.
So that was going to be one of my questions. So early on in high school, you like to draw. You were drawing. Like, were you an art?
Yeah.
Did you think you were an artistic guy?
Oh yeah, no, I was always I could do. I was probably a better artist at 12 than I am now. I could do realistic looking. I could draw any Conan image that I could see at 10 or 11 years old. So I used to do all the Conan characters and all the girls and all the monsters. In fact, that picture right here behind me is I probably drew that when I was 11, and it's a wizard.
Damn.
From Conan magazine. So
that is freaking cool.
Drawings there, and and I really loved because I had liked I think my dad got me into Conan magazine because it was all the black and white warrior type stuff. My dad liked Conan, and I grew up liking it. And then I used to sit down and I'd have my paper and a little image of the Conan picture, and then I'd make it big, just like this one. And,
so you always thought about scaling things up, like you kind of that was something very early on, like, hey, something this small, how can I make it bigger?
Yeah, I could draw a picture this big, and make it, this big. So I was
really
like a copy artist. I was really good at that, and that probably developed into how I work, because I don't work with computers. I just No, I don't. I've never worked. In fact, I'm getting my first plasma table in. I think they're shipping it in a week, and I've never worked with one before. So,
dude, that's insane, because when people see the pictures that I'll drop on this conversation, and they'll see the scale. I mean, you're making things 30, 40, 50, 60 feet, in scale. I mean, especially not to use computers and just kind of do everything right here. That's pretty impressive.
It's just the way my brain thinks, I guess. I mean, I look at things and go, "Holy cow, how did I accomplish that?" But really, I have a foundation that I don't know where I heard it. I heard it when I was young, and it was kind of like you scale your business, you scale your work. Everything you do is like a ladder, and every step, every rung of the ladder is your achieving the next step. So I look
That's well said. That's well said. Hold on,
so
because now I saw you with readers before. Now I bought these little optics
oh
things, and
yeah, I've
I'm
got readers. I can't
I,
see
I'm
them.
I'm trying this, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is how it works. So this it's a pain in the ass, but whatever.
Yeah,
It is what it is.
you get
That's
old
what
and your eyes.
that's what happens when you hit 47, 48. It is what it is. So, but Kevin, so I'm very fascinated. So early on, you can draw things, scale, and you always wanted to draw things even bigger than what you saw. But at 19 or 18, when you finish high school and you go, you know what, I'm going to go into my first metal fab. Um, I guess, did you have any other jobs right before you started getting paid?
I found, typical labor jobs, a kid with no education and a kid with no skills, really. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And friends of mine were working, they had both gotten jobs. A friend of mine got a roommate, and his roommate worked at the shipyard. And then his roommate got him into school, and then he got into the shipyard after welding. And I used to hang out with them, and they always had money to work on their cars, and they always had money to go to the bar and go
Right.
out and stuff. And I was always broke, and I had a shit job. And I worked in furniture moving companies, and I worked in
Shit, so did I.
gas stations, and just whatever job was out there. And so anyway, I decided to go. I got laid off from a job that I was on, and at the time in Canada, unemployment insurance was offering trade schools to,
Oh,
if you
okay.
want to be an electrician, if you want to be a welder, if you want to be a carpenter, they would pay on. You would stay on your EI, and they would, as long as you were attending your course full time, you could extend your benefits while you took your education. So I
Now,
went.
does that even exist still?
Pardon me?
Does that program still on? Does that?
I don't think it is. No,
Yeah,
no.
I mean, because yeah, talk about such a
Back in the late '80s. So.
yeah, but that's awesome because I don't think I've ever heard that here in the States either.
Oh.
So yeah,
So it was kind of like, and also at the time, I guess they were re-educating people too. So if you had if you were in construction and had a bad back and you were always like, off work or on workers' compensation or something with injuries, they would actually put you on EI and retrain you if you wanted to work office work or whatever.
So now they had given you the choices. They had many things you could take, right? I'm assuming, so you chose welding right from the get-go.
I did, yeah, yeah.
All right. So at that moment, because you had already done some work, with the cars and stuff like that, you kind of saw that as like, oh, I can keep learning how to build things.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, I mean, I wanted to just get into this. My focus is just to learn the trade, and I really didn't even think about cars until later. But
I see.
I just wanted to get into the trade and start making the money. And I actually didn't end up going to the shipyard right away. I did my apprenticeship as an iron worker. So I was
Okay.
a commercial iron worker for 10 years before I got into some various other shops. I've done a little bit of everything. So I started off my apprenticeship. I did a 4-year apprenticeship in welding, which is a lot different now. They put you through into a welding course in a year now or something.
Yep.
Crazy.
So what happened when you were doing all these structural things, all these, so what code by the book, whatever you want to call it, that you go, you know what, I really want to go back to my artistic side. Like when did that, because you said you spent 10 years with this particular one, and then after that, a few other things. Like when did that just set, you said to yourself?
I was working for a brewery company, building stainless breweries and plumbing and all that, the big tanks and stainless breweries. And they asked me to build a gargoyle for the rooftop of the building. And that was the very first piece. So I sat in the corner and I picked through the scrap bin, all stainless steel, and I built a 8-foot gargoyle that's on. I believe it's on my website. It's on somewhere in my Instagram. There's pictures of it.
Why did they wanted that, and how did they think that you could do that, or did you even know you could do that?
Well, I was kind of a doodler. Everybody knew I was an artist, so I'd sit in the lunchroom, and if I was bored while I'm eating, I'd be doodling and stuff like that. And people
Got it.
people would see my artwork. So everybody volunteered me to make this gargoyle. And I had never tried anything like that before. And I just started kind of picking away through scrap and getting ideas. And I just freehanded this gargoyle with bat wings and everything. And that
So how big was this?
It was a 8-foot wingspan and about 6 feet tall.
Wait, I mean that's
about
already
a full-size gargoyle. Yeah.
I know that, and that's what's crazy. Most people start, with a 12, 20-inch. You go right off the bat and make this 8,
Wanted a big one for the rooftop of the building so people outside could see this gargoyle up on the roof. And really their idea was just to show off the skills of the fabrication in the shop. That's
now let me ask you this. How long ago was this?
2003.
Okay. So when you look at your work now versus how that one came out, is there a huge difference? Can you see the gap in talent and experience? Like, oh my God, I don't even know how I did that.
Right. Well, one of the things that I have the freedom of doing now is putting my own time into my projects. Whereas when I built that, it was rush. What's taking you so long? It's, and it's a time-consuming process. But, I'm getting paid by the hour to build a gargoyle. And the boss was like, okay, like,
oh yeah,
so I was kind of rushed through that one and wasn't allowed to do, the shaping and the details that I do now.
Gotcha.
But yeah, progressively, I mean, every time I do a project, I find myself getting better and better and learning from my mistakes, not really mistakes, but just learning how to do more detail, getting more experienced with more types of tooling. Recently Bailey has reached out to me and sponsored me, and I never had all the great tools that Bailey offers. And
yeah,
a lot of the things I built, I just had a grinder and a welder. I mean, I really didn't
holy
have
crap, dude.
shaping tools. So I used to just do, my big birds that I did early on, I would clamp them to my table and climb up on the table and foot stomp the shape into them with my feet, just whatever I could to get a shape into a piece of metal. So things a lot, and things have really changed for me since I came to the States. When I left Canada,
so hold on, because you're jumping, So how long? When did you after you made this 8 feet, whatever the gargoyle, and when did you go on your own and said, I think I can do this. I think this is my path. Were you doing this in Canada then, and you quit the metal shop, and you started doing your own thing?
Well, what happened is I was at a coffee shop, and we were actually just talking about fishing. And this old guy heard us talking about fishing and asked if he could sit down at our table with us. And he had just bought a new boat. And so he had no idea. He bought a 30-foot kind of like a Bayliner yacht, a 30-foot yacht. And had no idea how to run it. He'd never been on the water, never been in a boat before.
Talk about, right? Yeah.
I just got this whim, and I grew up on the water with my dad, so I knew all about boating, and I explained to him a bunch of things and processes that he has to do and how to apply for his license and all courses and everything that were available to him. And we were talking, and then he asked what we did for a living, and we were talking, and then my friend said, "Hey, show him that gargoyle you built." So I showed him the gargoyle I had just built. He was kind of fascinated by it, and then that was the, kind of the end of it. We all went our ways. But he ended up calling me about 3 or 4 days later and said, I can't stop thinking about this gargoyle you built. Can you build other things? I think there's a potential that if I invested in you and you built something, we could sell it and make some good money on it. And maybe build some other stuff. So that's where it kind of came from. And I just jumped off the diving board. And I said, yeah, I could build it. No problem.
Of course.
Our idea was a 30-foot eagle. And that was the very first large scale piece besides the gargoyle that I did. And so he came on board as a kind of a private investor.
Gotcha.
He funded me about 20 grand in tools to get started, and paid me a kind of basically what I was making as a welder fabricator.
Yeah.
A bi-weekly allowance to build this thing while we built it. I had no idea that his intentions were to steal it. So.
Oh, whoa, wait, what?
Yeah, so it turned into a shit show. He once I had unveiled it, and we actually had some interested parties. We had an airport, and we had a native band that was interested in the eagle as well up in Canada. And we were talking multiple six figures for this piece. Turned out really neat. It's called Power and Authority. It was my first piece.
So at this point, Kevin, when you were making this, you guys had not a buyer. This was not a commission piece yet. You guys were just making it, and then you were going to try to sell it.
Sell it, yeah.
Huh. Okay.
And so yeah, once it was built, he went behind my back, and kind of a long story, but we were paying cash for the building with the landlord. We had a big shop there and paying cash. And he went behind my back after the piece was finished and signed a lease, changed all the locks, put everything in his name, and prevented me from entering the building where my sculpture was. So
holy crap.
I called the police, and they said, well, you were in business with him. It's a civil matter. It's you got to call a lawyer. So, long story short, I eventually 2 years later caught him trying to take it apart with a welding crew that from out of town, cutting it apart and trying to relocate it when we were already dealing with like lawyers and suing him, right? So so we caught him trying to steal it, and after 2 years of lawyers, and I got an injunction and seized everything, and he got nothing, and I got everything back. But by the time I got everything back, it was all cut apart and damaged because they didn't know what they were doing.
Of course.
So they just, were cutting it apart and did massive
damage. So by now, because you knew what you could do, because you built this thing, I guess you are already invested also in yourself, and you go, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start doing this thing now on my own.
Well, what happened as that was transpiring, and when it first actually started transpiring and the bird was locked up, I had been talking to a venture capitalist out of Vancouver who was interested in purchasing the bird for one of his clients. And the client was looking at a tax write-off. So he was looking at investing in this piece and using it as a tax, incentive. And so when all this happened, I told him, I said, look, the bird's locked up. We're not going to have access to it for, who knows, up to a couple of years dealing with lawyers and the court system. And I said that, if your client's serious and wants to invest, then reinvest, and I'll build another one.
Yep.
So that's where my second big bird came from. That client thought about it and decided that, you know what, it's probably a pretty good deal. I'll invest in this, and I ended up working with him on two of my projects. So I built a 40-foot eagle for him, 40-foot mirror polished stainless eagle, and then we did a 85-foot Chinese dragon in mirror polished.
Holy crap! So you had a shop, now it's ceased. You didn't have a place. Did you went and find another place? Where are you making this big size thing?
What happened was when they pulled the trigger and sent me a deposit to get started, I relocated to Chilliwack, BC, and rented a farm. And the farm had a big shop.
Farm, okay.
And I was renting the farm, and it was a really good deal. I mean, this was back in 2005 or 5, I guess. 2005. But it was $2,000 a month for a 5-acre farm.
Oh, damn! Sign me up.
Yeah, and it had a 1,600 square foot shop with 220 power. So again, I reinvested in the same tooling that I just had. So I bought a small toolbox and a compressor, and I fabricated an aluminum table, and I bought a Miller welder, and off I went and built a couple more pieces with this investor. So
that's intense. So now, how long were you at that farm?
I was there till 2013.
All right. When did you move to Las Vegas?
A year ago this month.
I actually do remember you saying that at FabTech.
Been here a year. Yeah, on the 18th, we moved here last year.
Okay. Why the move?
Well, it was a long time goal of mine, even since the farm.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I wanted to be down. I wanted to be down where it's warm, for one thing. I was tired of the weather in Canada. And that was a big factor. In the last 5 years, especially with Trudeau, the politics in Canada was really left wing, and it wasn't me, and I really wanted out. I found myself every time I turned around, I was angry about something going on, like it was ridiculous. And I mean, it was pretty bad here with Biden too, but it was worse. It was worse with Trudeau, and it was just getting stupid. And so the other thing is taxes. So taxes were when I left, last year, my tax bracket for personal income tax was 54%. So the government was
Ouch.
taking more than 50% of what I was earning. And I had a good accountant, and he would try to find all the loopholes.
So this is when, hey, pay me cash for these things.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of people wanting to do illegal activity in Canada because they get raped for taxes. I mean, the cost of
It forces them. Yep.
yeah, it's so bad. It's so bad there. The cost of living, like, a house that I could buy, let's say 20 years ago, I could buy a house for 160,000. That same house is $1 million in 20 years, which is ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now,
and it's still an old, they're called BC boxes, and really the value of it's a 50-year-old house that's really doesn't,
it doesn't make sense when you calculate. Where does this money? Where is the difference? How can you charge it?
And how can people afford a mortgage like that? It's $5,000 or $6,000 a month just to pay your mortgage. And if you don't have security or something, or you're not a young man anymore, nobody can afford that. It's ridiculous.
It's just a recipe for crime, and that's how you said it. It just pushes people to look at other things, and all those other things usually is like, how can I make a quick buck?
Yeah.
So,
well, and it breaks up families too. They can't, they fight. They're both working, and they're both stressed out because they're broke all the time. And not with their children because they're working all the time. And it's the destruction of family.
One of the top reasons why family break up. It's money situations. And now that you talk about money, because your wife is Michelle.
Yes. Yeah.
And how long have you been married?
So we met when I was building the Chinese dragon, and that was back in 2008. So
now,
we got married in 2012, and we've been together ever since.
Because I know she's like, she's your right hand. She
did everything with me. Yeah.
What was she into this before, or she just got into it once she met you?
When I met her, she had a business. Her and her mom had a business together, doing. They were inside an old age home, a big one, and they did all the ladies' hair. So they had a hair studio inside an old age home, and they would, look after all the old people and do their haircuts. And
well, talk about a real change, eh?
Yeah. So both her mom was retiring, and she was suffering with arthritis pretty bad from all the years of doing like like, so she had thumb arthritis and neck arthritis and stuff like that. So what happened is kind of going back to the farm. That investor that invested in the Next Bird and the Chinese Dragon, we had a falling out as well. And the reason with him is greed. So when I unveiled my pieces with him as a business partner, he wanted just stupid money for my pieces. Like, he wanted $8 million for my bird. He wanted $10 million for my dragon. I'm a new artist. It was ridiculous, right? And price versus investment, those two pieces, his personal investment was about $500,000 in those two pieces. And then he throws out these stupid numbers. So
how can you justify, right? Yeah.
Right. And then what really kind of separated us was during this, shortly after I unveiled the dragon, I had an offer for $1.5 million, which was huge, for my eagle. And he turned it down and wanted like 3 million or 3.5 million or something, and turned down $1.5 million offer, which was ludicrous. I mean, it would have paid him back all of his investment, and
plus
then we still had money to split the profit, and still had the dragon now paid for to sell and split. And anyway, it was just a shit show. And
now, so is it companies mainly that are seeking out for you to make stuff for them? Is it, how
private billionaire, millionaire individuals that have reached out for my work?
Now, how do they find you? Because I mean, now I guess you have a name, so now it's easier, of course. But let's go back 10, 15. How were people finding you and knowing that you're making these larger than life things, and that you were, charging, whatever it is, 100, 200 grand, whatever it is?
The only marketing that I had was the internet, and I had a website. And because of the pieces that I built, they got a lot of attention. So
I see.
Even though I had only done 1 or 2 or 3 pieces, they were all newsworthy pieces. They had been plastered in the news. There was news articles and stories, and the internet, Google started to,
Of course, do its thing.
yeah, you could find articles on my work or newspaper clippings on my work. And I had a pretty good website at the time. I had an award-winning, my very first website was this award-winning website for an early website. So it was very,
Really?
yeah, I even won some awards, and I used to get money from Google from my website and stuff.
Damn, dude.
So, so that
Now,
was good.
now, one of the things that usually artists have an issue in the beginning, it's how to price their art.
Absolutely, yeah.
How did you learn how to price, especially something when you look, I'm guessing you're Googling and kind of checking other things. Hey, this person made these 20 feet, whatever. When did you find the secret sauce to price your art?
I don't think I ever have. I really haven't, because my projects are so big, and I never know really what's involved until I'm building them. Now I've got you, and I've got a little more experience, and I keep getting better and better at pricing. But I'm also a very I'm kind of the guy that, like, it's feast or famine. And if I'm in famine mode and a job comes in and they don't have much of a budget, but they're still wanting something, I'll try to make it work just to keep the dollars rolling in. And,
of course,
and you just try to make a living, right? And so I've eaten my shorts badly on a few projects, like really badly, like way under, just because I'm trying to work with the client within their budget. And then it's a really cool project, so then I overbuild it because I'm excited about it.
Of course, right? Now you're challenging yourself, right?
Right, and then I find myself that I'm funding half the project just to finish it, So it's happened to me a few times, and as shitty as that was financially, I also completed the projects and have them on my resume now as this is what I'm capable of, and if I hadn't made that effort and done that extra effort that I did, I wouldn't have this on my resume that I have. So
now, how big is your place now? Are you making this still in your garage? I mean, like, you have a shop. Like, where are you making these things?
I opened up a 6,000 square foot commercial shop in North Las Vegas. So I'm about just 10 minutes from town and on the north side of Las Vegas.
Now, do you have like a showroom? Is this just a shop? Can people even go and check this thing out?
Yeah, people are welcome to stop in and visit me anytime. Yeah.
And you already have things just in display there. You always have.
I'm already deep into 3 projects. So I'm doing another 60-foot dragon. I'm doing a 60-foot fire-breathing steel dragon. I'm doing an 18-foot stainless steel tree for the Mount Sinai Medical Center in Miami. And
really? That's where my son was born. Yep.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so I'm gonna. It'll be ready probably by June. It'll be shipped and installed sometime around June. And it's a big stainless tree with butterflies and hummingbirds in the tree. So the tree is mirror polished, but the butterflies and hummingbirds will be in full color.
Now, do you have a crew? I mean, how many people are helping you do this kind of jobs?
So I hired a welder to help me.
Okay, so now it's just you, your wife, and the welder.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Wow. Canada. I had an apprentice in Canada. I had one person working with me full time, and then for a year, because I was really busy, I was finishing the Game of Thrones dragon. I was doing the Elon head. I was doing the T-Rex, and I did a couple of birds all at the same time.
And, dude, that's insane.
I hired another welder, so I had 2 people working for me at the time. So there was 4 of us doing all of those projects.
And where do you think, because as we know, we're getting older, what about the physical part? Can you still physically maintain the demand of the size of things you do?
It's funny you say that, because no, I'm really struggling. So for instance, on Monday, I got to work at 6:30 in the morning. It was a bit of a cold morning. I got out of the truck. Michelle and I showed up to work on Monday, got out of the truck, went to open the door in the front of the shop, and the cold air got into my nose and made me sneeze. And I sneezed twice and threw my back out.
Dude, I'm not laughing. I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because that shit happens to me too.
I mean, it was really bad, like crippling. Like, that's it. My whole week is over. I just threw my back out completely. My lower
out of sneezing. Jesus.
And I sat around the shop till about 10 in the morning, and I'm like, I just can't do it. I can't walk. I can't sit. I'm like crippled. And I phoned around. I didn't have a chiropractor here in
Yeah.
Las Vegas. I had one in Canada, and I've had back problems for 20 years. And so anyway, I found this chiropractor and went to him, and he was actually pretty good, kind of a kooky character, but he had me a little worried. But he actually did his job, and as of today, because I've been in pain all week,
Yeah.
but he got me mobile almost right away. Like I missed one day of work. Tuesday, I couldn't move. Wednesday, I forced myself to go to work. Thursday, I forced myself to go to work. I seen him after work Thursday. Friday, I was really sore, but made it through the day. Today, I woke up and I'm almost 90% today, where I'm not in pain. And I've been kind of running around getting some shopping done this morning and stuff. And
That's good. And
that's
because of that, go ahead.
because usually I'm laid out for a month. When my back goes out, I'm done. Like oh my God, it takes weeks for me to heal. So this was
Really?
a miracle. Yeah.
So and just keeping on that track, because I know I've been going through some stuff, and I'm laughing because yeah, nowadays you wouldn't step out of the bed and you're like, oh my God, I twitched something. Yeah. But looking at, have you ever thought about maybe opening a school or something? Because I mean, let's look at it 10 years from now, 15 years from now.
So
Physically, you're not going to be able to do these kind of things, right?
that was
So
my
how
business
does
plan.
Kevin's life, continues on?
Yeah. So that literally was my business plan coming here. So I've been talking to the AWS before I moved here, and they said reach out. I had some ideas. I haven't financially been in the position to set myself up there yet, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping. So I just turned down a teaching job, and the only reason I did is because the AWS wanted me teaching fabrication on Friday nights from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. here in Las Vegas. And the only reason I turned it down is I've had all of these sponsors come on board with me overwhelmingly, like Bailey Tools, Dynabraid, CK Worldwide. I know ESAB is kind of courting me right now to be a sponsor. And then events like FabTech. So
Of course.
when those events come up, and Bailey just had me out at Kindigit in Utah doing metal shaping courses. I have another metal shaping course. I'm going to be out at.
Yeah, I think Alison Paya was there that day too.
Yeah, and
We're very good friends. Yeah.
California and things like that, and there's a lot of travel involved, and including my work. My workload. I can't commit to the classroom yet because I don't know where I'm always going to be, and so that affects me being available to be there continuously like I need to be, and also the time. And you really gotta, if you're teaching, you gotta really focus on your curriculum and having a class.
Well, also at that moment, it's also not just about the money. Let's face it. When you're teaching it.
There's no money in teaching.
So yeah,
but
it's more about the legacy continuing on than anything else.
I love teaching, and I think what I'm going to do is I'll start teaching private classes out of my shop. So
well, that's exactly what I was trying to think. In the beginning when I asked, is like, maybe the scale of where you want the end goal to be, I can get based on how you build things. I can only imagine how your mind works. You want this whole thing, but you can start with just out of that 6,000 square and just 2-3 booths and really get people to work and kind of copy a little bit about what you do, which is never going to be the same because we all have our own different fingerprint. But I think that's a good start just because of the physicality of things. If you want your legacy to continue 5-10 years from now.
My short-term goal is to get off the floor. So
that's what I
want to focus on. I'll do the head, the details, the faces, things like that, where it's critical and you need that artwork. But when it's just manufacturing like feathers or scales or frameworks and things like that, I can have other people do that for me, and then it takes the workload off of me. I'm not pulling a trigger on a welding job,
correct.
And it lets me focus more on the art, lets me focus more on the business. And, I expect especially, I've got the opportunity of a lifetime. I don't think there's an artist on the planet that has the opportunity that's ahead of me right now, where I get to build a detailed 60-foot, 15,000-pound fire-breathing dragon, and I'm here in Vegas. There's no other place in the world to do a project like that.
Might as well
get eyes on you for what you do, and I'm really excited. and we're already deep into the project, and I'm
So how long without taking and doing anything else, no other jobs? How long does a job like that takes you?
um, generally between a year and 2 years, depending on how much help I have and how much focus. Again, I'm already doing 3 projects. So I'm doing a dragon, which is my longest deadline. It's a 20-month project. And I'm already losing a couple months because I'm doing other projects.
Of
So
course.
it's knocking it down to 18, 17 months that I'm going to have to build this dragon in. But I
Now,
have,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, that's okay. I have help, which will help speed it up once we can get it.
Does customers, for the most of the time, they understand when you give them, hey, the lead time is going to be 2 years? Are they like, oh, okay?
I start with a contract right off the bat, so it has to work for both people, well, both
Of
parties.
course.
If a customer wants a dragon but they only want to wait 6 months, I have to factor in $400,000 or $500,000 in labor to hire
Yep.
all those extra people to pay them to try to get that done in that short of time. And it's really just a matter of cost. The more time you can give me to build something, the less it's really going to cost you, because it's not a labor factor. If I have to have 5 or 6 guys all making 30 or 40 bucks an hour as certified welders,
Yep.
and they all have to be busy on a project, and I have to oversee all that, then the cost has to be there, right?
Now, without telling me specific numbers on this 60-footer, the over and under, over what, under what, price wise?
Let's just say it's multiple 6 figures, but it's not into the sevens, and it should be. It's a type of piece that I'm building with the scale and detail and cost, overhead cost, material cost. It should be a 7-figure piece, but I'm still looking at where I am, what I'm about to produce, what I'm about to unveil here in Vegas. The marketing is worth 7 figures to me.
There you go. Now, how do you are you building piece by piece and putting together on site, or the whole thing is going to ship all together?
So I built the whole thing in my shop, and then it all disassembles with cranes and semi trucks and gets loaded and shipped, and then I'll meet the trucks at the other end and then assemble the whole thing on site.
So on site, there's more welding as well.
No, it's all bolt on. Yeah.
Oh,
okay. So it's completely bolt on. Yeah.
Gotcha. Now, what is this going to be your biggest piece ever?
This one is, yes. This dragon is a hair bigger than Drogon, so it's only 5 feet bigger, but it's bigger in many other ways. Like the pose is different. It's more it's a more dominating pose than Drogon, where he's kind of spread out on the ground and shooting fire. This one's kind of up in the air in a big figure S with his wings up, and he's shooting fire out, and it's a more imposing pose.
And how much lead does people give you? Like whenever now they trust you enough to say, hey, Kevin, this is kind of what I envision, go for it. Or they actually tell you, I want these teeth and these eyes and these wings. And
depends on the client and depends on the project. So mostly I get pretty freedom of expression, but I also work with clients that have specific needs. So I just did a fireplace for Dolly, and for Dolly Parton's.
That's what I thought it was, like Dolly Parton, like yeah.
So it's the world's North America's largest indoor fireplace, and it was installed at a brand new Heartsong Resort in Tennessee. And it has a 20-foot wide, 60-foot tall fireplace, and the entrance to the fire pit is 10 feet wide and 12 feet tall. And they wanted a big wrought iron gate, like a big wrought iron type antique looking handmade piece for the fireplace, and an insert for the fireplace. And I had to work with them really closely. They were very particular at what they wanted, the look they wanted. And I was recreating Dolly as a little girl in the fireplace.
Really?
So you can see it on if you go to my Instagram,
I will.
There's some videos and there's certainly some pictures of it. And Dolly actually posed with it, which was really cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, talking about social media, who handles your social media?
My wife and me. Michelle does all the filming. So now she used to help me full time. Now she helps me about 50% of the time, and the other 50% is filming. So she's very focused on getting content for our YouTube, our Instagram. We take pictures and we post little video clips. daily, literally daily.
Now,
Um,
are you monetizing these platforms already?
no, not yet. No, we haven't made a single dime from social media. So we probably would and should. Where I haven't really physically made cash, but I've had wonderful sponsorship from all these tool companies that have sent me either free tools or free product. And now it's gotten to the point where that value is in six
Oh,
figures.
oh,
So
for
that's been
sure.
amazing for me. I mean, I got to do a shout out to Russ at Fast Cut there. He's sending me a brand new Icon plasma table. It's built custom for me with my logos on it and everything. It's brand new.
Damn.
It's shipping down from Canada. It's a 5x10 table with the computer and all the hardware and software and everything installed in my shop, ready to run, and no charge. So
That's amazing. Well, hey, that tells you, that validates, what you do, and that people believe
and then
in
I got
you.
to
So
figure out how to use a computer.
now, what's your best process? Like, what hands down, what's the one that not only the one that you use the most, but what's the one process that you think you're the best at?
I would say wire forming. So I can build anything. Like I literally, honestly, can build anything based off of a wire form or a wire buck. So if you look, I'm kind of a car guy, so I think everybody used to build wooden frames and then they'd
Correct.
sheet out the wooden buck and make a
Around
custom.
that, yeah.
And I'm very not skilled, but I'm very knowledgeable in that aspect. I could build a custom car of anything, all in sheet metal based on bucks. But that buck work learned me to. It's also I'm a hand-eye artist, so if I see something, I can usually figure out the scale of it if I'm making it big and scale it to whatever size I'm trying to make it. And what helps me now, I've kind of resorted to children's chalk. So I'll take sidewalk chalk, and if I'm doing a really big piece like my dragon or the bird that I'm doing a 23-foot stainless eagle right now too. I'll draw it out on the floor in full scale. I'll make some measurement marks on the floor. Okay, this is 30 feet. This is 50 feet or whatever. And then I'll make a mark and say, okay, this dragon, let's say, is 60 feet. So here's a mark. Go down to the tail. There's a mark. How big is that dragon in between those marks? And then I'll climb a ladder to visualize it if I have to.
Of course.
And I'll draw it all out in chalk. And then once the whole thing is drawn out in chalk, I can measure all of these measurements based off of what I need for a frame to support what I'm building. So I always start with a frame, and the frame is designed for two things. One, it supports the sculpture, but it also has to be engineered that it comes apart and it qualifies to be engineered. So most of my public pieces that are outdoors or at theme parks and things like that, I have to have engineering certification on my sculptures. So that means the framework, the welding, everything has to be to code to make sure that it passes the engineering and it's safe to be in the public. And then from that, I can scale my artwork off of that. But the key factor is the engineering. And I can't work. Over the years, I've learned from experience that engineers are not artistic at all.
No.
There's maybe 1 in 1,000 that might be, but most of them are not. They're very analytical, very
correct.
They have no clue of how things
should flowy and forms. Yeah, that's another thing.
So what I've learned is that and this comes back to my background of being a commercial fabricator and a iron worker, and I know what's required in the structural industry, and what size plate to use, what size holes to use, what size fasteners to use, what size gussets and where they need to be, and what kind of welds qualify for this type of so all of that is a factor that I know from experience. Whereas that type of stuff is very hard to teach somebody that wants to do what I do. So if you want to do what I do, it's great that you're an artist and you can weld, but having all that engineering background and experience that I have is what separates me from doing these really, really large pieces, I think, because, for somebody that doesn't have that, welding at home and welding to code are two different things. Right?
100%.
fabricating to code are two different things. So having that really helps me. I mean, that's probably what one of the key factors that I'm able to do what I do.
It's your base, yeah. It's your base for sure. And what's that one piece that has had the most sentimental value to you? Like, even after you made it, you're like, wow, I wish I didn't have to sell this. Do you even have one, or can you disconnect yourself very easily after you?
I mean, Drogon was probably to date my best piece for detail and just the thought that went into it and how well he turned out in the end. You're just kind of, for me, I'm just winging it. I'm winging it day by day. There's a funny thing that I've seen on social media, and I'm just winging it.
Yeah, I know.
That's what I'm doing. I mean, I'm in there every day is a new problem. Every day is a new situation, and I try not to look too far ahead. Of course, the whole thing is in my head.
Yeah.
How it's going to be built and what, I'm always planning ahead. But each day is a new problem, and each day is, sometimes metal fabrication is like that. And if you're welding or if you're fabricating, sometimes you just have to shut the world off, stop stressing about what I'm going to get done this week, and just focus on what's in front. And just kind of turn things off and listen to music and work on what's in front of you, and not
that's
really
it.
stress about the big picture, because each step, it's part of that.
It's going to lead you to the next thing, yeah.
It's the ladder, you're on that ladder, and I'm stuck on this step until this is done, and then I can get to the next step, and it is what it is.
So now piggybacking on what you just said, turning off. You're not welding, you're not working. What is you and your wife doing on your off time? Completely off time. She's not filming. You guys have nothing to do with the shop.
If the weather's good, we're on our Harley doing long haul road trips.
Really?
So, yeah, we really love long haul road trips. We started about 10 years ago, I guess, and that's kind of our go-to vacation. So if we're going to do something, rather than jump on an airplane and go somewhere tropical or whatever, we'll pack up all our gear and load the bike up and fuel it up and just take off. And what we do, and the thing that we really enjoy about it, is we don't have a plan. We're just like, which way do you want to go? Let's go that way. And then we'll just keep riding and riding and riding. And when it gets dark, it's like, oh, I guess we should look for a hotel now or whatever. and we've had some of the most amazing trips, spontaneous destination.
I love that.
We don't know where we're going until we're there. So
what's the farthest you guys ever ridden?
9,000 miles in one trip.
Damn, that's impressive. That I love just that. I guess that freedom. Just like, hey.
It's my therapy. So
I bet it's completely disconnecting from having to draw and plan and all these things. It's just the own plan. You just go.
As soon as I'm on the bike, and I'm fortunate. I have a really nice bike this year. I had a nice bike a couple of years ago and did a lot of work. So what you might not know is Michelle and I, when our second partner, that's a long story, but when I did the Chinese Dragon, and shortly after that, I did the Big Eagle for Dollywood. So I did Dolly Parton Eagle at Dollywood, a 55-foot eagle, and then basically had a divorce with my business partner at that time. We were button heads and looking at some lawsuits and everything, and it was getting ugly. And I was so stressed out. I had two bad partners back to back, dealing with lawyers and court cases and greedy people. They were both, it was all over greed. People saw my talent and tried to take it from me. And I fought, right? And I fought to not lose what I had worked hard for. And I was so bent and so angry. I was angry at everything.
I bet.
During all of that, I had put a lot of, the Dragon took me 2 years working 7 days a week. Literally, I didn't hardly see my children. I went on like one camping trip in 2 years with my children. And they'd come and hang out with me in the summer and weekends, but every day was in the garage working. And they just knew Dad was doing that, right?
Not happy.
And so it took away from my parenting. Some of my fatherhood was probably affected by the effort I put into some of these pieces. And
it happens to all of us. How many kids you got?
And I have 2 boys, and Michelle has a boy and a girl. So we're kind of a mixed family, and they're all in their 20s now. And I was really bent for the sacrifices that I made to make these pieces. In my opinion, I sacrificed my personal life completely to impress not only my partners, but to build these huge pieces, and the dragon I literally built by myself,
Yeah.
and so I was really mad at the world, and Michelle, she's the one with the calm shoulders and calm head on her shoulders, and
We always need one of those.
yeah, and I was at a loggerhead. I was like, I was done with art. I didn't know where to turn. I didn't have sales.
Wow.
I had these private investors, and nothing was selling because they screwed me out of pricing.
Of course.
He was interested in $10 million sculptures, so they limited my ability to sell my work, and I gave it all up. I quit artwork completely, and I opened a hot rod shop. And Michelle and I opened a hot rod shop, and we ran the hot rod shop successfully for 9 years.
Wow.
And it was about 3 years. I probably didn't touch a piece of artwork for 3 years. I didn't do anything. And she kept saying, you really need to do something. You're a really great artist. Just do something, a small bird, whatever. So I ended up doing an eagle. I did like a 12-foot eagle or something like that.
Yeah. Most people, when they say do something small, we're talking about, hey, just make a 24-inch kind of thing. Not in your case.
No, 12 feet is probably the smallest I've done, I think. Yeah. And
Jesus.
so I built this eagle, and it sold. Like, as soon as I finished it, Harley Davidson bought it. A dealership in Calgary, Alberta, bought my eagle. It's on display there still at the Harley dealership in Calgary, Alberta.
And you're like, okay, that's a sign. I guess I can, yeah.
Yeah, so then I thought, well, hey, I made pretty good money off this, and it's cash in my pocket, and it didn't take a huge effort, only a couple months of playing around in the shop. I'll make another one. So I made another one, and then another one, and then a couple of calls came in for commissions because of my other artwork.
Of course.
Were finding me with my website, and then I got more and more, and then and then my name started to spread, and I was getting a good reputation with our car building too. I was winning lots of shows and competing, actually competing and winning, and then still doing the art, and I think because of my art, I was getting some high-end car customers because they knew my metal fabrication was good. If I was doing good metal fabrication, they were expecting good metal work on their cars, and I hired an apprentice in the hot rod shop who became a fantastic metal worker, and he was my metal worker from learning from me, and picked it up really good, and was obsessed with it, and he became a really good fabricator and car builder himself. So we brought on partners, which was against my rules, because at that point I wasn't going to bring on any more partners. But I kind of in the back of my head knew that I wanted to leave the hot rod shop after 10 years. I wasn't as happy doing cars and dealing with all the customers and dealing with all the employees that, it's just a headache. It's always a revolving door. And I've
always heard, Kevin, that car owners can be a pain in the ass.
They are the toughest customers for sure. Although I've made some of my best friends from them, so, but I brought on one of my best customers. It was a multi-millionaire, and I brought him on as a partner. And right away, no fault of his, they wanted to change direction of the shop. So mine is a little mom and pop's hot rod shop, and I'm a fabricator, and I'm a builder, and I'm an artist. So to me, a car isn't just throwing some parts on it.
It's an extension of you. Yeah.
I was like a Dave Kindig, or, I was working towards building artistically crafted top end cars where I would be competitive, like eventually maybe even going for a Riddler Award or something was in the back of my mind. And that's kind of the direction that I was going. They were opposite of that. They wanted to do like diesel trucks and work trucks and brake jobs and alignments, and have an alignment machine and
so they wanted a real mechanic shop kind of thing.
Yeah, they wanted an in and out, which was not what I worked basically like I do my artwork. I'd take a deposit, I'd work through that deposit, reach out, get another deposit, and keep building the car.
Yep.
Whereas they wanted that, everyday income, cash flow in the shop, and more cash flow.
Which you can fault them as business people. I get that. It's just not your vision. I get it.
They were totally we were just polar opposites in I'm kind of an old school car builder, and they just wanted a modern automotive service center, basically, right?
Correct. It was a turntable.
I totally lost interest in the shop when I brought them on as partners. And I was actually doing a piece of artwork I got invited to do a sculpture for the Big Boys Toys show here in Vegas back in I want to say 2019, and just before COVID. So before COVID happened, Michelle and I built a 30-foot Falcon, and we were going to bring it down to Vegas and have it on display and for sale down here in Vegas. So Michelle and I let my partners run the hot rod shop. I was there to oversee things, but we were focused on building this big stainless eagle.
Yeah.
And that kind of disconnected us even more from them
I see.
doing the artwork. They were like, well, you don't really do anything around here. And I'm like, well, you obviously see what I'm doing. It's not that I'm not bringing finances into the shop, that we just have to make things sold, right? Anyway, yeah, we were just heading in different directions. And
Gotcha.
I got Drogon came along, the commission for Drogon, and right at the same time, like right after Drogon, I just started Drogon. A couple months goes by, and I get a opportunity to do that big T-Rex, the big 50-foot stainless steel T-Rex.
Yeah.
So those are both on my plate at the same time. And I said to Michelle, I said, I can't do these in the shop. There's no room.
Yeah.
Our partners aren't going to put up with doing these big projects, not involving them. They're going to want a piece of it. I said, let's just leave them in the shop and we'll go do this on our own. And that's when we left. So we just literally.
And that's amazing, at least that you've always had, that support system from Michelle. And like you said, she's been a shoulder. So, and to see both of you so engaged and so in tuned, and creating these visions of yours, because it's amazing. I mean, they're definitely visions of yours. Nobody can take that away from you.
For sure. I'm laser focused on my goal of being one of the best artists doing large scale sculptures in the world. That's been my laser goal for 20 plus years, and doing bigger and bigger pieces. In fact, I'm still not doing pieces as big as I'd like to be doing. I'd like to be doing 3, 4, 5 times the size that I'm doing, but finding someone that wants something that big.
Well, that's the other side of the table, right? It's not just what you want; it's what they want to pay for.
Yeah, I haven't had that yet. If someone comes along and says, "Hey, I've got an open checkbook. I want this, and it's this big," I'm all in. I'll figure out how to do it, and we'll do it. So
that is pretty cool. Well, Kevin, I think the pieces themselves, they paint the picture of what the stuff that you can do. So, that part is amazing. And what I'm excited about is that if you do decide to pay it forward in the sense of, maybe opening in school, but I hope whenever you decide and whenever that happens, that it's more just about just the structural work, like you actually try to teach this side of the industry that you are on, not just like, this is MIG, this is stick, this is, whatever. It's like
welder teachers out there. That's not what I want to teach at all. My focus really, honestly, is working with companies like Bailey and the English wheels and all the plenishing hammers and power hammers, and teaching people how to shape metal, not just weld it and cut it,
Yep.
And that's where it's at. I can't teach people how to be an artist, but I can help them.
Correct.
I can give them a path.
If they have the tools, now it's up to them here, but their hands already will catch up once they're got it here. Yeah. No, so that is pretty cool, and I'm very honored to learn all this from you. And just to, again, every time I see one of your posts or something that you're posting out there, I'm like, how the hell is this guy doing this kind of things? Especially when I know that for the most part it's just you, your wife, and a helper. That is impressive. That is very impressive. So
watch for some new unveilings, because I'm about, I think next week I'll be assembling my bird for the final time. I'm doing a 23-foot eagle. That'll be the first piece that I finish here in Vegas. So I'm doing a 23-foot stainless steel bird, and I'm about to assemble the body back to the feet. I just finished the feet, and then I'll be feathering it. So by January, end of January, I should be unveiling my first stainless piece here in Las Vegas, which will be the bird. And it's going to Miami. It's going to Grand Hard Primer in Miami.
Nice. Well, this episode probably is going to drop in the next 2-3 weeks or so. So once you get those pictures, if some of them have already happened, just send me the picture so I can post them on the thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Kevin,
really.
Huh?
You'll see me posting daily as we get closer. So
Oh,
yeah.
I'll be watching. Like I said, I'm a stalker. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. So that,
If you're
yeah.
ever in Vegas, come and visit.
Oh, for sure. This is why. That's why I ask you. If you already have, the shop can actually one go visit and look at it.
Absolutely.
Because
Yeah,
I
anytime.
travel over the U.S. I'm never home, so definitely I'll take you up on that.
Yeah.
Well, Kevin, I want to thank you very much for what you do. Again, the stuff that you do is amazing. Thank you for taking time out of your Saturday morning. And is it still morning there? I don't even know because my time frame it's like all
It
screwed
is
up.
11:30.
All right, all right. So yeah, thank you. Well, I guess either I'll see you on your neck of the woods, or I'll see you at FabTech, most likely in your neck of the woods before that happens in Chicago. I'm assuming you're going to go to Chicago next year.
Yeah, I'll be with Dinah Braid. Dinah Braid wants me in Chicago. So
Oh, so that's Lexi.
yeah, Lexi. Yeah.
Yeah, we're good friends too.
Awesome.
Yeah,
She's in
cool.
Phoenix right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I'll tell her all
Lexi is good
to go
people.
hang
Good
out.
people. Oh, for sure, for sure. We'll make it happen. Well, Kevin, again, thank you so much. Thank you again for sharing your life, a little bit of your story, and I hope someone gets inspired and actually learns from you that the sky is the limit, literally. So can't wait to see you in person again. Thank you again. It means a lot, and I'll let you know when this one's dropping.
Awesome. Sounds good.
All right, take care, brother.
Okay. Have a good day.
You too.